one's called Jedi Mastery.
As someone who has been the target of racial profiling several times, and was even arrested in front of my home and held in jail over the weekend for fitting the description of a burglar, I'm paying close attention to the White House Hops invitation. People joke that I'm King Kanye Howard, the king is getting pulled over, and they suggest that because I drive a Cadillac, I'm more susceptible to racial profiling. But I can say with confidence that Cadillac designers never said to each other, yes, with this year's model, we focused on a scientifically advanced design that would get people of color pulled over and searched. I've been pulled over in an assortment of vehicles, foreign and domestic, often searched and rarely ticketed. And I certainly don't feel served or protected. For many black people, police scrutiny is a given and pretty institutionalized. But so is the ethical police attitude that many people of color hold about the cops. Neither side gives. Once you've been unduly sidelined by police, you lose trust in them as both enforcement and protection. The protection you're paying taxes for. If you're a victim of crime, you don't call the police. If someone breaks into my house right now, I say, man, what do I do now? And I've been profiled so often that I've almost developed an art form for asserting my rights while I've been in the office. I read recently that black men, when pulled over, have to be some odd combination of Samuel L. Jackson and Sidney Poitier, the former being known for his aggression and the latter for his eloquence. It may sound appalling to some, but that's exactly the tightrope I've learned to walk in dealing with the blue line of racial profiling. There's an unspoken understanding between the offending cop and me when I get pulled over. We both know it's not necessarily because the tail light is out or my music is playing too loudly. And we both know it will likely end up in some sort of circle. I don't act indignant because I'm the Jedi Master, employing mind control to get us both out of the situation as quickly as possible. But once I've turned the corner, then I turn my music back up. Because after all, that's why I bought it. If our forefathers had cassette decks on their horses, they probably want to play their music loud too. That's life, liberty, and happiness all in one action. That's the whole balance in it. I know how not to lose my cool and how to assert my citizenship at once. No matter the details of what actually happened on Henry Louis Gates' front porch, there's again an opportunity for national acknowledgement of a divisive problem. It might take the form of increased candor about this issue from both police and the people of color who are wary of it. It might lead to some policy changes, like a racial profiling task force. No matter what follows from the beer at the White House this afternoon, I don't doubt racial profiling will remain a sobering issue in my life for some time to come. I'm King Kanye Howard.
So I wanted to play that to really illustrate again the what's the new what, and really talk about just in that example and in this individual, this idea of the new what being not only the product that the young person is producing, but the process that they're undergoing. For Anye, I first met him about 4 years ago, and he came into one of our programs called the Remote Program. Very tall, African-American kid, always had jokes. We would always like exchange some blank jokes. Matter of fact, I think I actually was to steal some of his material, but that's another story. And so, but one day on the way to a youth radio staff retreat, where we were having young people into the staff retreat, he was actually stopped and held up, arrested by BART police in the Bay Area, and it was a pretty horrific experience for him. But he's been able he was at that time, and he has been able since that time to really work with sort of like those feelings that he experienced, digging deeper into them to craft some of the most beautiful narratives that have come out of youth radio, especially in regards to race and ethnicity in America. This piece represents his latest work, and I played it because it was so topical. And I thought funny, because the whole idea of having Mayor as a president and Bush being president. The timing so but he actually last year York Festival International Award for a series he did called Race in Your Face, which included pieces called DNA of the Black. These are all available on our website. So what's new? What? How's it going? Are you still at that time? Done? Okay. So what does this all mean? What I'm trying to talk about here is sort of like what I see as this very interesting intersection that I think we stand in. I've kind of like tried to illustrate what it looks like at youth radio. What happens at youth radio when we sort of like acknowledge what's going on out there at that intersection, and particularly with the kinds of youth that we're working with. And particularly with the kind of youth that we're working with. Okay. And I'm trying, you know, what I wanted to do there was to, this is feeling just a little too weird. Can people hear me without the mic? Okay. Sorry. Okay. All right. So now what I want to do is just point out some other examples of how this work looks in other places. You know, there's in Los Angeles some work that's been done that has identified Los Angeles, and particularly South Central Los Angeles, as a food desert. Have folks heard this term? Food desert, referring to sort of like a situation where generally lower income communities of color, because of where they're situated geographically in a city, and the fact that in that area there are not enough or adequate places for them to actually go and get nutritious and healthy food. And so in this project, what I thought was like extremely interesting about it is that they have developed an approach to working with young people in that community to develop new kinds of community assets to help speak, educate, articulate, and advocate for what they want to see happening in their community. And part of that has been this idea of the market makeover, the corner store makeover. A program that sort of like engages a leadership cohort of young people to think about sort of like market forces in their community that force, nearly force corner store, or what we call the Kona store owners to putting like all the Budweiser up front and all these sort of like mushy bananas in the back. And to like creatively think about ways in which they can engage those store owners to restructure their stores so that they become places where folks can actually access healthier foods and perhaps have better health outcomes as a result of that. And so these young folks, through sort of like media production, the production of video documentaries and oral histories in the community there in South Central LA. Also, in some ways, looking at the corner store itself as a medium, that there's a particular design, there's a particular way to read and interpret like the interior spaces of a corner store, right? That somehow engage sort of like a customer and help a customer make better choices, like choice architecture, really. They have succeeded in converting 3 stores in South Central LA. As a matter of fact, one of the store owners is thinking about opening up a second store where the store will totally feature fresh fruits, vegetables, healthy meats, and culturally specific foods for the area. You know, one of the other definitions of food desert is that there's not necessarily no food there. The food that is there is, you know, Burger King, Mickey D's, Kentucky Fried, that kind of thing. And so there's a great need for folks to be able to access also culturally specific foods, right, that